Hi, so I want to talk about Social Security disability and what it's like to apply for those who are in the process or are frustrated and don't know what else to do. Firstly, I live in the state of Massachusetts, and I know that each state is probably going to be different about their exceptions and all that, or maybe it's all pretty much standard and the same. So I would suggest going on the website for the state that in which you live in to see what the medical conditions are that qualify to be on a disability. I don't recall ever doing that when I first applied, so I don't even know if what I was first applied for was even a listed thing on there, or it was something close to something that was listed on there, so it was like, good enough, right? So if you go on the website and the condition you have that's keeping you from working isn't listed, but it's very similar to something else on there, then it might, be considered a qualification of what you can be on disability for. So I would say give it a try. Um, for people who have already applied and been denied, you already see the frustrations of how there are people who shouldn't be on Social Security and they're basically just people milking the system because they don't want to work. And then there are those of us who have conditions, whether mental or physical or both, that's making it complicated. And then I saw this woman who shared her story on TikTok who suffers with POTS. I really don't know much about POTS, but she explained how she even had her doctors write up a list of accommodations of jobs that she could sort of qualify for, but with these like accommodations to her medical condition, and she still wasn't able to get a job. So she applied for Social Security disability and she's been denied. I don't know what the updates are so far, of current time. Um, but I understand that frustration. So if you're a content creator and you're in the rewards program, you might be able to make money that way while waiting to get into Social Security, and not everybody is that lucky. I'm not one of those people. So far, I do not have enough followers or anything like that to qualify for the program, but I am on disability. It's a decent amount, but in this, um, with the cost of everything still being so high right now, it's really not enough to get by. So it's like, if unless you're living in like a housing place for disabled and elderly, or a low income place, you might be struggling to get by. So a lot of people right now, or like living with family or friends, or if they have a partner they're really serious with, that helps them kind of get by too. But anyway, going back on track of applying for disability. So other than, looking up the information online of whether or not what you have kind of qualifies for disability, um, there's, applying for it, and there's always a chance that you will get denied the first or even second time. Like when you get denied the first time, they say fill this information out to appeal it, and sometimes you're denied when you appeal it. So then the next step would be to get a lawyer. Go with a lawyer who is educated in your issue, because if you get a lawyer that knows nothing about what you have, they're not going to be the best one to defend you against the judge and everybody else who's trying to keep you from getting disability. Because if you get a judge who is uneducated in your situation, then this lawyer who doesn't know what they're talking about is going to make it that much harder for you in your case. So if you at least get a lawyer who's kind of understanding to your case and what's going on, then there's a chance they could help you get what you need. Especially if they're a lawyer for a disability. So when I had to go to the point of getting a lawyer, because I was denied when I first applied, and then when I appealed I was denied, my mom contacted my grandpa's lawyer, and he looked into some lawyers for me who do disability cases, and I got in contact with these two brothers who had like their own thing. They don't do like disability cases anymore, and it sucks, because if they still did, I would suggest them to anyone that lives in the Massachusetts area, because they were wonderful. My mom and I spent almost all day there the first time we went to go through all this paperwork. It was such a tiring and long day, but they were such a big help. They helped me prepare for my case and what to say and stuff, because I was so freaking nervous. Like, I didn't have to stand up like in a courtroom or anything. It was just like a basic room with like whoever I don't know which of the people the judge was, because it was like a couple different people, and they were at like computers, and they were like taking down like information of what I said. Like certain ones would ask me questions, and I would answer them to the best of, you know, what I could answer and what my lawyer prepared me to say. At the time, I was going mostly for mental health reasons and tardive dyskinesia, which is a rare like side effect to certain psychiatric medications. And then, you know, sometime later down the road, I was also diagnosed with fibromyalgia. But like to apply with something like fibromyalgia, if you don't have any other thing going on, that can be really hard to get Social Security disability just off that alone, because that's one of those like conditions where it's kind of hard to prove that you have unless they roll out so many other things. So sometimes with certain like medical conditions, you have to go see one of their doctors in order to prove you have what you have, which I didn't have to do because my condition at the time was so damn obvious. I was still actively on the medications that caused the tardive dyskinesia, and even after I came off it like 5 years later, the damage was permanent, and about a year and a half later, the fibromyalgia happened. So my life for a long time has been me with medical issues, and unless they come up with a magical cure, this is the rest of my life. But I am so frustrated watching people who are fighting to get this extra help that they can't, because again, everybody is out there getting approved that doesn't need it, and then there are people out there who can sometimes barely move from their bed sometimes, or can't even stand, and they can't get that help. It's this system is so fucked up. So my suggestions: one, look up and see if your condition qualifies, and if you're not sure, then apply anyway. If you get denied, appeal. If you get denied again, look for a lawyer who specializes in disability cases, and make sure your lawyer knows something about your condition so they can fight for you the best as they possibly can to get what you. Here's the other thing that sucks. If you haven't worked for very long, you're not going to get a lot of money when you get Social Security. At most you'll maybe get what my mom gets, which is maybe a little over $600 a month, and it stinks because she did work for a long time, but there are also many years she worked under the table, which anyone who doesn't know that saying is when you work basically not on the books, you're getting paid like privately by somebody who hired you for something. So then it's not like a recorded pay, and she probably would be getting more if that was the case, if, you know, all that time she worked like on the books. Or if you're someone like myself, when I applied for disability, I was considered an adult disabled child, and my dad was on Social Security at the time, so I was able to apply under his, which is why I get a bigger amount than my mom. But still, in this economy, it's still not quite enough to get by. So be aware of that. If you didn't work for a long time, or even just like a few years, you're not going to get a lot, and that is frustrating, because it's like you're living with this condition, you're probably going to like live with the rest of your life, and you're kind of just getting, it sucks. That's all I'm going to say. Another thing, I was told by Social Security disability, they have this period, like a 9-month period, for people, like they're getting Social Security, but they also want to make extra money. So say you start a side business online, it's going really well. They said you can make as much money during that time. And I think the reason they created like this 9-month period of like being able to like make this extra money is, I think it's for like people who were like, I think I can go back to work full time, but I'm not sure. So like say you're on disability temporarily. And if during that time period, that 9-month time period, they feel positive enough they can let go of Social Security and go back to a regular work schedule, then they can cut it out. Like you make your decision or something. That's just how it comes off to me. I don't really know like what the whole deal of it is, because I talked to them like to get an idea, like if I was able to find a job that is accommodating to my disability and all that, or something I can feel positive, say like a few days a week. I don't know, I can't think of a place offhand. Like if they still had like video stores like Blockbuster around, here's an example. and I worked there a few days a week, I talked to Social Security like, how do I go about this? To say, well, you got a 9-month period, you can make as much money, and I'm probably still gonna have to like take the take copies of what I make from work and send it to them to keep them updated on what's going on. And then I got to into the 9-month period, I have to decide, am I keeping this job and giving up Social Security, or am I keeping both? And they'll start cutting what I'm making per month, and depending on what I'm making at the job. It's a whole lot of different things to look into and consider for sure. So I really hope that helped, and I'm sorry this video was so long, but I just see so many people talk about their frustrations on how to apply and like what kind of things to look into, and there's a lot of frustrating things to deal with along the way. So if this video was informative to anyone whatsoever, I'm glad I could help. And it has been a long time since I applied, so some things might be a little different now compared to what it was, back then. Because that was like in my early 20s, I'm now 36, so things are changing all the time. But at least this will give you some idea of like how to approach the situation, what you're like in for.